Southern California, good evening, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. We have quite a bit on the docket tonight in terms of Southern California sports, such as LAFC winning El Trafico. Finally, LAFC broke through against the LA Galaxy. How bad did that loss affect the Galaxy, and how big was this win for LAFC? And how about Angel City topping Wave FC? They won their SoCal rivalry matchup in the biggest way. So good job for Angel City FC. And also, the MLB All-Star weekend is just around the corner, as it's time for me to hand out some grades. Which teams will be passing with flying colors, and which teams will kind of be barely making the grade. Also, we have not one but two dum-dums of the week, and we have some NBA Summer League to discuss, as well as the NHL Draft. All that and more, here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful Friday evening, Friday afternoon, Friday, wherever you are listening from, wherever time you are listening from. It does not matter. All that matters is we are live. And apologies if I'm a little behind when it comes to going live. We had a little bit of a episode, no pun intended, but it's all good. But all that matters is that I'm live and I'm ready to do the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Before we get on into that Southern California sports goodness, we have a word from our sponsor. IE Sports Radio is proud to call the Southern California Warriors the official sponsor of IE Sports Radio. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organization. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get filmed to trap for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get the second chance you've been waiting for as an athlete. You can follow them on Twitter at SoCal Warriors, on Instagram at Southern California _Warriors, and by going to the search bar on Facebook by typing in the word Southern, then California, and then Warriors. IE Sports Radio is available on all or most social media platforms such as Twitter and Instagram at IE Sports Radio, TikTok at IE Sports Radio, and they also are available on Facebook by typing in the word IE, then Sports, then Radio. They have a website that's also up and going and most likely going to be updated, www.iesportsradio.com. And when you go there, you will see a Patreon link at the top, which starts out at $5 a month. And with that, you will be getting a shout-out from all 28 of our shows, and then higher tiers will include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to IESRU, the podcasting university of IE Sports Radio, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment with Larry B. Because for the past 8 years and going, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've been continuing to be by the fans and for the fans. With your help, you're ready to take the next biggest step. Thank you, everyone, for all of your support and for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all the sports. Shout out to our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised Apparel, Marcus Losgreat, Key to the Gate, and an anonymous donor. Also, thank you to everyone that made our 8th year anniversary show special, as well as a big shout out to the IE Sports Radio Fan of the Month, Justin Ekstrom, a Minnesota fan hailing from Minnesota. And with that out of the way, let us get on into that Southern California sports goodness. So, we have quite a bit of Southern California sports to go over. We'll start with the MLS, just because last Friday we had this big-time event that I've never really seen a whole lot of. I have not seen El Trafico on TV. I'm certainly not going to see it in person, but I've never seen a whole lot of El Trafico just because most of the Galaxy and LAFC's games are most likely blacked out unless they're playing on primetime like on ESPN, which was the case last week. So this took place at the Bank of California Stadium, yes, I said it right, and LAFC was able to get the victory 3-2 over the Galaxy. So how did LAFC win? Well, for starters, LAFC did not have the services of Gareth Bale, as he was still a little jet-lagged and he didn't get back in time to the point where he was able to play for LAFC. Boy howdy, if he played for LAFC, then it probably could have been a whole lot worse, but that isn't the case. So Jose Cifuentes started the scoring festivities with a goal at the 17th minute, and the Galaxy had their scoring opportunities, they just could not take advantage of it, as LAFC led 1-0 going into halftime, which was kind of a relief. Before I continue, I gotta give a shout to John Felipe, who's in the chat room. He says, "Have a great show, Teran. I appreciate it." And he just wrapped up his show, Carolina Cast. Definitely check that out every Friday. And also a shout to Arthur Parsons, who says, "Hey, Teran, have a great show." I appreciate it, Arthur. He has his show, The Bayou Bulletin, every Thursday. Definitely do check that out. Back to LAFC and LA Galaxy. So the Galaxy were able to get that game-time goal with a goal from Samuel Grandsir, as that tied it up at 1-1. And once again, the Galaxy had their chance. They were knocking on that door, but LAFC just had the answer, as Cifuentes was able to score his second goal of the game, giving LAFC a 2-1 lead. And then Christian Arango gave LAFC a 3-1 lead, which 2 minutes after, which was very quick. But to the credit of the Galaxy, they did not give up, as Rayon Ravolison scored to make it 3-2 at the 81st minute. And again, Galaxy were trying their darndest, but unfortunately they just could not get that game-tying goal, as they actually had more shots than LAFC, and they also had more shots on goal as well. So in the end, LAFC pulled out the win. They won 3-2, as Bank of California Stadium was just rocking, as I still have some of those cheers stuck in my head. Like, I'm not going to try to imitate those cheers just because it's just it's pretty difficult for me. But some of those cheers are still ringing in my head, and I just barely watch. I watch the whole thing, and it's like I can't believe. I don't know if this is how LAFC's stadium is every match. I don't know if their fans are chanting and just having a rockin' time, or if that's just El Trafico. But either way, it was a raucous hot atmosphere, and LAFC performed well, and they got the win. As we say hello to Gina reppin' to Bay, she says, "Have an amazing show." Thank you, Gina. So LAFC really picked up a big win at a great time, just because that keeps LAFC in first place in the Oh, wait. I am mistaken. LAFC is not in first place in the Western Conference. That honor for the time being belongs to Austin FC, as Austin is currently atop the Western Conference, as they have 40 points compared to LAFC's 39, which, that's a bummer, but oh well. In LAFC's defense, they have played one less match than Austin, and Sunday, LAFC and Nashville face one another, which is cool beans. And then Dallas and Austin play one another tomorrow, but we're not talking about Austin. So, obviously, LAFC is going to get better when they play, or when Gareth Bale plays. And then tomorrow, they play Nashville, or Sunday they play Nashville, which, for me, that's a huge one, because right behind LAFC in a distant third place is Nashville. And that's going to be huge right there. That could possibly be a Western Conference playoff matchup. Boy howdy, it possibly could. And I really think that's going to be a difficult matchup for LAFC. LAFC doesn't really get to play Nashville all that much just because Nashville migrated from the Eastern Conference over to the Western Conference. So I really think LAFC is going to have their hands full. But if Gareth Bale does play on Sunday, then boy howdy, I keep saying boy howdy, but honestly, I think LAFC should have a better time against Nashville. When it comes to El Trafico, all bets are off. Like, anything can happen when it comes to the Galaxy and LAFC. Remember, the Galaxy beat LAFC in the first meeting, which was actually LAFC's first loss of the season, and then they just steamrolled them in the U.S. Open Cup in the round of 16. So, for LAFC to pick up this big of a win on its home turf is really huge. I really think that LAFC can go really far so long as they keep their players healthy, they win the matches they're supposed to win, and more importantly, they just play their game. Now, as for the LA Galaxy, poor LA Galaxy, they just could not get that goal. They could not get that game-tying goal. They tried their hardest. I don't really think they played bad. It's just that LAFC just controlled most of the momentum. And it's hard to win when the opposing team is just controlling the momentum more often than not. And also their goalie made a couple of good saves, which I think was amazing. So overall, the Galaxy still have a little bit to learn. The Galaxy actually had a match following El Trafico, which was not convenient for them, as they actually returned to Dignity Health Sports Park to take on San Jose, which the Quakes won 3-2, which was very disappointing. So this kind of resembled the Minnesota match, where the Galaxy fell behind 3-0, and they had to work their way back from a 3-0 deficit. And like hockey, 3-0 is kind of the worst lead to face, or the worst deficit to face. And it's disappointing because in the first half, the Quakes got a penalty shot scored by Christian Espinosa, and then Jeremy Ebabis scored 1 minute after that. Like, you can't do that. You cannot allow a goal immediately after a penalty shot. Like, it's like the Galaxy didn't play any defense in that sequence. And then Marcus Johan Lopez was able to score in the 40th minute, which gave San Jose that 3-0 lead, which, yeah, exactly how the Minnesota match went, where the Galaxy fell behind 3-0, only this time the Galaxy did not have a man down. They didn't have the man down. They had the excuse of playing man down. This time they were at full strength. The Galaxy did not get on the board until Dejan Hovlicic was able to score 3 minutes into the second half, and then he scored in the 88th minute, but just like the Minnesota match, it was just way too little, far too late, as the Quakes won it 3-2, which is not, I mean, in the Galaxy's defense, they were coming off of that tough loss to your rival team, and that kind of messes with you mentally, but for me, San Jose I'm pretty certain San Jose is not one of the better teams in the league. And yeah, they're like the third worst team in the Western Conference. So for the Galaxy to lose that one is kind of disheartening. It's also disappointing just because they don't gain ground in the Western Conference. A win definitely could have put them still in that. It actually could have put them in a three-way tie for third place with Real Salt Lake and Nashville. Unfortunately, they are in 7th place with 27 points, one game ahead of Seattle, which that's not something you want. Like, you don't want Seattle on your coattails, considering Seattle, they're starting to play better soccer. I really think that Seattle is probably the most dangerous team to watch out for going forward. And then you also have your Portlands, and Vancouver isn't playing too terribly, even though they have a hideous goal differential of negative 11. So, for the Galaxy, it's just all about going back to the drawing board, and they basically have to wash this loss off, and they have to wash off the remainder of the LAFC loss. This Saturday, they are on the road taking on the Colorado Rapids, which, looking at the standings at Colorado is the second worst team in the Western Conference. So, if the Galaxy can't beat Colorado, the second worst team in the West, then I'm actually kind of concerned for the Galaxy going forward, because you can't win a game when you're trailing 3-0. It just doesn't work that way. If you're down 2-0, it's a whole different story, but 3-0 is too risky. It's just too risky. It's just too big of a deficit, especially at halftime, because you have 45 minutes to try to get 3 goals to at least salvage a tie. But unfortunately, it just doesn't work like that, because you have to go up and back and prevent the other team from scoring, and then you have to get that perfect look at that goal. I'm no soccer expert, but I'm fairly certain being down 3-0 at halftime is not good for you mentally going into that second half, especially when you're coming off of a loss to your rival, being LAFC. Gina says she was really happy that the Quakes beat the Galaxy. Yeah, I mean, you did have... I mean, I'm not going to try to take anything away from the Quakes, but it really does not help that the Galaxy was coming off of a tough emotional loss to LAFC, their rival. If it was any other team, then I would definitely not defend the Galaxy in any way, shape, or form. But I will say that the Quakes did deserve it, and it's another rivalry game. Like, the Quakes versus Galaxy isn't as big of a rivalry as El Trafico, but it's still a rivalry game that it's NorCal versus SoCal. You can't take anything away from it. So, honestly, the Galaxy have a little bit of soul-searching to do, and they have to do so this weekend against Colorado. And then next Sunday, they will be back home at Dignity Health Sports Park against Atlanta. So, Atlanta, they are near the mid-low tier of the Eastern Conference. And then the Galaxy close out the month of July when they hit the road to Dallas to take on Dallas FC. And looking at Dallas, they are near the middle of the... Well, not the middle of the pack. Yeah, well, actually, no, the middle of the pack. They are 6th in the Western Conference, which could be huge when it comes to possible seeding in the Western Conference in terms of playoffs. I know we're talking a little too early about playoffs, but hey, what can you do? So just to I didn't really talk about the remainder of LAFC's July schedule. So LAFC, following their matchup on the road against Nashville, they'll hit the road to Missouri to take on Sporting KC. And then to close out the month of July, LAFC returns home to the Bank of California Stadium to take on Seattle. That matchup right there, that Seattle matchup, is, well, it's a bit of a trap game. Now, obviously, Seattle is not as good as they have been in the past, but that does not mean they're not going to work hard, as, honestly, Seattle and LAFC are kind of bitter rivals. Like, they're basically going to jaw at one another, and I want to say Seattle tied with LAFC the last time the two teams played, so Yeah, I feel that LAFC versus the Sounders is going to be quite the matchup. Like, it's not going to be the matchup everyone expects it to be, but I think for LAFC, they're not going to get an easy match, that's for sure. Because right after they take on Seattle, they actually have the 2022 Leagues Cup showcase against America, which, I'm going to be honest, I have no idea what this 2022 Leagues Cup showcase is. I'm sorry. Again, I'm not the biggest soccer expert, but this Leagues Cup showcase is going to be a little bit of a detour for LAFC. Because then LAFC has to refocus its attention back to Real Salt Lake. And John Felipe says, didn't Atlanta lose their coach to the Premier League? I'm not entirely sure. I want to say something did happen with Atlanta's coach. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't have the full-on details right in front of me. So, either way, if that is the case, then the Galaxy still can't underestimate Atlanta United, but if that isn't the case, then no matter what, the Galaxy can't underestimate Atlanta United, especially since every win to them is now going to be precious going forward, especially because that entire Western Conference is going to be so crucial. It's going to be so tight as well. The Galaxy have only played 19 matches, just like LAFC, so they're kind of a bit behind in terms of playing the full matches that every team is kind of supposed to be playing. And Sporting KC is actually the only team in the MLS to play more than 20 matches. They've played 21, which is nice. Matter of fact, they're the only team in the MLS to play 21 matches. So that's also interesting. But back to LAFC. Once Gareth Bale starts to adapt and get familiarized with LAFC's offense and run and gun plays, then I think LAFC could be a dangerous team going into the playoffs. Their first test is Sunday, though. Again, Nashville is going to be their fans can be very rowdy, and their fans are very passionate. And can LAFC win on the road? That is my biggest question. They were able to win at the Bank, aka Bank of California Stadium. Now they have to win in Nashville. So that's kind of my thing. And Geodis Park is where Nashville and LAFC will be playing. So that is that for the MLS portion of the show. Let's jump on over to the NWSL, just because LAFC and the Galaxy weren't the only two teams facing one another in a rivalry game. We had San Diego Wave FC and Angel City FC doing battle with one another in the Bank of California Stadium. This was actually played the day after El Trafico faced. And in the end, Angel City actually came up with the win as they won 2-1. Keep in mind that Wave was actually the best team in the NWSL going into that match, which was quite surprising. And remember, Angel City did not have Kristen Press, as she is out for the entire season with a torn ACL, which is really sucky, but she'll bounce back bigger than ever. Kristen Press is one of the best players in the NWSL, along with Alex Morgan, who, ironically enough, plays for Wave FC. So Angel City got on the board first with a goal from Allie Riley in the 9th minute, and it was 1-0 just because Wave FC and Angel City tried to get that second. Angel City tried to get that second goal, just could not. It just wasn't there yet, and Wave FC tried to get their goal. It just wasn't there as well. So in the 60th minute, Wave finally got on the board as Kristen McNabb scored, tying the game up at 1-1. And then Angel City, it looked as if everything was about to spiral out of control as Tyler Lucy got a red card, which put Angel City a player down the entire way. However, 2 minutes after that, Claire Emsley, who actually just signed with Angel City, scored the go-ahead goal at the 81st minute, which gave Angel City the 2-1 lead, and eventually that gave Angel City the win over Wave, which is very impressive. Again, Angel City just signed Claire Emsley just because replacing Kristen Press isn't easy. You can't do that overnight. But I feel that was huge right there, and that's going to definitely boost Angel City's confidence. And the Angel City really needed that win. They really needed that win just because they had their last win came against Louisville, and they actually had not. If they did not beat San Diego, it would have been a full month that Angel City would go without winning a match. So for Angel City to win that match against the best team in the NWSL is really impressive. And coming off of a tie against Portland, where it looked like they were going to win that one, but unfortunately they didn't, is disappointing. But fortunately for Angel City, they were able to pull out that win. They actually gained some ground in the standings, as they are tied with OL Reign for fourth in the West, or not in the Western Conference, the standings. Houston occupies the sixth spot, as only the top 6 teams advance to the playoffs, and the first and second seeds get a bye into the semifinals, while 3 versus 6 and 4 versus 5 take on one another in the quarterfinals. Despite losing, Wave is still atop of the NWSL standings, as they have 21 points. They are clinging to that number 1 spot by a thread, as they are ahead of Chicago, the Chicago Red Stars, who have a match this weekend against Houston, which is definitely going to be huge right there. And I should also make note that Portland plays Gotham on Saturday, which, I feel Portland will win that one, and if that's the case, then that's not going to be fun times for Wave, just because that loss, losing to Angel City, kind of hurts them. Because now the NWSL is in its little break, and I feel Wave FC is going to have to do some soul searching after this loss. I'm not trying to take anything away from Angel City's win. I think Angel City really needed that win, because when you haven't won a match for 1 month and you're without your star player for, I want to say, 1.5 months, it affects you mentally, and it makes you wonder if you're ever going to win again. Just because if you go on a 1 month winless streak, that's going to be bad news. Because look at what happened with LAFC and the LA Galaxy. They went on like 1 or 2 month winless streaks, and that eventually cost them a spot in the playoffs. For Angel City, their margin of error, especially without Kristen Press, is starting to dwindle. Wave doesn't really have that risk just because they are in first place. They just can't allow any more of these losses to just pile up. So I made a mistake. San Diego actually has a match at Torero Stadium against Louisville at 7 p.m. So, again, I don't understand why Wave FC has to play their matches at a college stadium, but I'm not going to question it. I'm not going to judge it. I'm just going to say San Diego plays Louisville tonight at 7 p.m. A win would definitely be perfect going into the break, just because that would really help San Diego coming off of a very, I wouldn't say tough loss, but I'd say a loss that they probably could have won. But again, you gotta give credit to Angel City. They were the underdogs, and they really came up big. That match, actually, ironically enough, snaps a 1.5 month lossless streak. I don't think lossless is a word, but it had been over a month since Wave FC suffered a loss. Their last loss came on May 29th when they lost to OL Reign. Ever since then, Wave FC had not really lost a match. They actually just tied or they won, where they beat Gotham 3-0. And then the week before they played Angel City, they beat Washington 2-1. I'm still a little bitter about that Wave FC and Portland tie. It shouldn't be a tie. I'm still salty. Anyway, San Diego takes on Louisville, and looking at Louisville, they are near the bottom of the NWSL standings. They are 10th. Now, what does that mean for Wave FC? This is their perfect opportunity to throw the Angel City loss away and to get back on track against Louisville. Just because yes, they are ahead of the Western Conference standings. No, it does not mean Wave FC could put themselves on cruise control. Because if they do, then they won't be number one for much longer. Obviously, they have done great things this year, and they've put together a great roster, and obviously having Alex Morgan really helps. However, now that San Diego is having so much success, there's going to be a big target planted on their backs, and Angel City was the first one to hit the bullseye. It does not mean that San Diego is going to lose out. It just means that San Diego has to be careful going forward, just because you can't afford to lose to teams that you can possibly beat. Now, rivalry games are totally different. I don't know if we can consider Wave FC and Angel City FC a true rivalry series, but I will say it is one of those interstate rivals that you just love to have. Either way, Wave FC has to bounce back against Louisville. This would be super ideal to bounce back against, especially since Louisville is on the road. Like, if San Diego was on the road in Louisville, Kentucky, then it would be a tougher story for Wave to win. But Louisville has to go from East Coast to, it's 3 p.m., or not 3 p.m., it's 3-hour difference ahead to back, and that could affect them. I don't think it will, though. I think as long as Wave FC takes care of business, they should be fine. So to close out Wave FC's loss to Angel City, it's obviously a tough loss, especially giving up a goal man down, but that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It just means that they're just going to have to recollect themselves and move on. After the Louisville match, they have I don't think it's the All-Star break, but I think it's like the international break where I think all the players like play internationally for their respective team. Well, not respective teams, but they're like respective countries and whatnot, and then they eventually just come back following the All-Star break. And the All-Star break or the international break is a good way to let all the teams like rest, recover, lick their wounds, and try to like draw up something to like get themselves back in the playoff hunt. And obviously Wave FC has a lot of meat on the bone, as well as Angel City FC. But for Wave FC, their meat on the bone is a lot more thicker just because they're the best team in the NWSL, and they have to play like it. So it doesn't mean I'm saying that Wave FC played like garbage against Angel City. I'm just saying Wave FC could have played a whole lot better against a Angel City team who is missing its top player. So the Louisville-San Diego match will begin in less than 30 minutes. And that will do it for the NWSL portion of the show. Overall, it was a great win for Angel City. I was very impressed that they were able to pull out that win. And if they play like that, if they play inspired ball like that, then no team is going to want to face them. And they could do whatever they want. So, good for them. Jumping on over to the WNBA. So, the Sparks have kind of had some tough sledding. At one point, they were in the top 8. Now they're kind of on the outside looking in. They're tied with Atlanta, the Atlanta Dream, for the 8th spot. As they are currently on, the Sparks are currently on a 3-game losing streak. As last Thursday they lost to the Seattle Storm 106-69. This past Tuesday they lost to the Washington Mystics 94-81. And then yesterday, being Thursday, they lost to the Chicago Sky 80-68. That is the bad news. The good news is their next 2 matchups are fairly easy, but nothing is guaranteed. The Sparks remain at home to take on the Indiana Fever on Tuesday, and then next Thursday they are at home against the Dream. That Dream matchup is going to be huge. It's not winnable by means, but it's not losable. As long as the Sparks just play their game, I think they can get it done. I really think they have the player personnel. They have great players such as Nneka Ogwumike, Katie Lou Samuelson, Liz Cambridge, all those players. I just think that it's all about putting the pieces together and just basically playing a full 4 quarters. And then next Saturday, the Sparks are on the road taking on the Las Vegas Aces. The season is winding down as the Sparks only have 2 carry the 3 minus 4. I'm just kidding. They have 12 games remaining. They have 7 games in August, and then they have 5 remaining in the month of July. So if the Sparks want to make the playoffs, and I know I wouldn't say they just lost. They lost their coach, Derek Fisher, to getting fired in the middle of the season, but doesn't mean Fred Williams can't take over and do a great job. You know what I mean? I really think Fred Williams has a lot on his dish, yes, but looking at some of the Sparks' games, they are winnable. They're winnable, but not guaranteed. That's my motto. Every game is winnable, no doubt about it, but nothing is guaranteed. I actually like that motto. I'm going to keep it. But looking at the remainder of the Sparks' schedule, they only play, 2 carry the 3 minus 4. Okay, I'm running that gag into the ground. They only play 2 more opponents that have a 500 record or better, which are the Aces and the Mystics. And that Mystics matchup is going to be in August on the 7th. Oh, yeah, and they also play the Connecticut Sun. Derp. I'm looking at the Sparks' record, but they play the Sun in the second and third last games of the season. But overall, the Sparks' remainder of the games, or remainder schedule, doesn't look all that brutal. It's just all about winning the matchups at the best possible time. And you want to win these matchups just so you don't want to bank on other teams beating teams that are in your way, like the Atlanta Dream, and then also the Phoenix Mercury, and then the Dallas Wings, and then Minnesota is right on the coattails of the Sparks. So for the Sparks, they have to beat up on the teams they're supposed to beat up on. They have to beat the Fever. If they don't beat the Fever, then there's no hope for the Sparks. I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. You can't lose to the worst team in the WNBA. I want to say the Sparks have already lost to the Fever already. I'm just going to double check that, but I'm fairly certain the Sparks lost to... Yeah, they lost to the Fever back on May 27th, which you lost by 5. Granted, it was on the road, but that's no excuse. And I don't think we all knew that the Fever were going to be this bad. But at the same time, I didn't think anyone predicted the Sparks being this bad, just because they have once again, they have those really talented players like Ogwumike, Katie Lou Samuelson, and Liz Cambridge. It's just all about having the right game and having everyone just be on their A game and not, just slacking off. Speaking of Nneka Ogwumike, I want to say it was one of the Ogwumike girls that dunked in a WNBA game, which, if that is the case, then boy howdy, that's amazing right there. Like, that is absolutely amazing. So I did hear that one of the Ogwumike... Okay, so I'm looking at this dunk now. This is not a dunk. I'm looking at this dunk now. That's not a dunk. I'm sorry, but it's not a dunk. Like, I'm getting distracted here, but this is not a dunk. If I knew about this dunk, if I knew about this beforehand, I would dedicate a segment to this. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm really sorry, but I don't know if this is a dunk. And this is actually in an All-Star game, This is actually in an All-Star game. So I'm just looking at this now. It's like, what in the world? Oh, boy. Okay. I gotta get myself back on track. This isn't like me. Shout out to Larry B in the chat room. He says, SoCal is better than NorCal. Don't tempt me, Larry. I'm gonna laugh more. Okay. Jokes aside. All happiness aside. The Sparks need to get their you-know-what together. Please. Okay. But I guess that's pretty cool that Nneka Ogwumike dunked in a game, even though that doesn't even look like a dunk, but it's whatever. Anyway, so jumping on over to some Summer League, I'm just going to say that I'm not the biggest Summer League guy. I mean, I like seeing the young guys develop, and I think it's cool and all, but it's it's just player development, and y'all are going to hate me for saying that. Y'all could, like tell me I'm a bad person, but it's the more I get involved in like games that don't matter, the more I'm going to get suckered in, and then the more I'm going to say, oh, well, the Lakers won this game against the Clippers. No. Like, unless the game actually means something, I'm not going to get suckered in. I'm sorry. I'm just not that big of a person. I mean, I'll check out NBA Summer League once in a while, but I'm not going to, like, get, like, fully invested. Like, I'll watch for, like, the rookies, like, for any of the Lakers rookies, like Max Christie, but it's not anything I'm going to get, like, fully invested into because it's just, it doesn't count. But I will make note that the Lakers did beat the Clippers in Summer League play 83-72, as Mason Jones had 15 points and 10 boards, along with 4 assists. Javonte McCoy had 14 points. SKJ had 11 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 blocks. And then Nate Pierre-Louis added 10 points and 7 boards. I will say that Max Christie is starting to become a little bit better. However, he's still fairly young. He's very young, and he's going to need a little bit more time to, like, develop. So that's kind of my news for the NBA and its Summer League. The Clippers also won today against the Utah Jazz, which is nice and all. But again, it is Summer League, and I'm not going to get, like, fully invested into it, as Brandon Boston had himself a game tonight. He had 22 points and 8 rebounds, along with 2 steals. Brandon Boston, I want to say, is one of the Clippers' upside young players. So there is that right there, and there's some upside to the Clippers. The Clippers always get the best out of these unknown players, which I like, even though I'm a Laker guy. I like it, but I wouldn't say I love it. So anyway, that is going to do it for the NBA portion of the show. We're actually going to take ourselves a quick little commercial break. When we come back, we will be discussing the NHL draft, and then it's time for me to hand out some MLB grades to the Dodgers, Angels, and Padres. And then we have the Dum Dum of the Week, and we'll also talk a little high school football. Yes, high school football in Southern California. Go figure. You're listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Lentarius Lava.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
It's IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
Back with segment number 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Let's jump on into some NHL news. Obviously, it is off-season, but the Ducks and the Kings had the NHL draft as the Ducks made all their picks in the draft. This happened on July 7th and 8th in the Bell Center in Montreal, Quebec, as the Ducks' picks in the first round were Pavel Montyakov, a defender, and they also had another first-round pick in Nathan Goucher, who is from Quebec. Second round, they picked Noah Warren as well as Tristan Leno with the 42nd and 53rd overall pick. And then the fourth round, they picked Ben King, 107th overall. In the fifth round, the Ducks selected 139th overall Connor Hivdson. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing these names, but Connor Hivdson. And then also the Ducks selected Michael Callow. And then in the 6th round, the Ducks selected this guy's from Russia, so please forgive me. Vyacheslav Butiets. I'm sorry if I mispronounced those names, but please forgive me. So those were all of the Ducks picks. I really like that first round pick just because they needed defense. They need those. They need the picks, that big time defense, just because their defense was the equivalent of wrapping paper on Christmas Day. I mean, open wrapping paper. But overall, the Ducks had a solid draft. I think they did well, and I hope, hence the word hope, they're able to get some playoff I'm hoping they're able to make the playoffs, just because they had the chance to make the playoffs, and then they unfortunately were unable to do so. As Mike Pat is in the chat room, thank you for tuning in. He actually says, it appears most hockey fans forgive bad pronunciations. Cap's first round pick was tough. I'm kind of afraid to look at that first, to look at the pick as well. But overall, the Ducks had a good draft, and I'm not going to hate on it. So looking at the Kings, if I could actually find it. So for the Kings, well, actually, I actually got to make one more note of the Ducks. The Ducks missed the playoffs, but hey, I think they'll be back. I really think that the Anaheim Ducks will be back. Do I think they can go far into the playoffs? Of course not. They definitely have a lot of work to do. They need to stop signing some old guys. They need to actually start signing some youth on their team. Otherwise it's going to be a nightmare. They're going to have the same problem the Lakers had when it came to those players. So Mike is tempting me to do to pronounce the Caps' first round pick. Okay, fine, Mike. I'll do it after I finish up the LA Kings' players. So the Kings drafted this year Jack Hughes in the 2nd round, because I'm fairly certain the Kings traded their first round pick to, I want to say it was the Oilers or something. I'm not entirely certain, but I know they traded their first round pick. So the Kings drafted Jack Hughes in the 2nd round, Kenny Connors in round 4, as well as Angus Booth. In the 5th round, they drafted Otto Salin. In the 6th round, the Kings drafted Jared Wright and Jack Sparks. And then in round 7, the Kings drafted Caleb Lawrence. So, as we all know, the Kings, they were able to make the playoffs this past season, which was nice, and they almost made it out of the 2nd round. Unfortunately, they were unable to do so just because they're the Kings, and we can't have good things in this world. I'm sorry, but it just isn't that easy for the Kings. They're finally back into the postseason, and they put up this wet fart of an effort, which in Game 6 and Game 7 it kind of hurt. But then again, they were facing the Calgary Flames. Or no, the Oilers. They were facing the Oilers, and even if they got out of that first round, they were not going to beat the Calgary Flames. So the first round pick from the Washington Capitol is Ivan Miroshnik. Ivan Miroshnichenko. I hope I'm attempting to pronounce that right. Ivan Miroshnichenko. There. Ivan Miroshnichenko. It takes a little while, but you gotta make it roll off the tongue. Ivan Miroshnichenko. There we go. I probably did pronounce it correctly, but it is what it is. Okay. Before I make a fool of myself, the Ducks did actually have some big news this past week, and by this past week, they were able to sign someone really good, and boy howdy, this was very, 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 very exciting as they signed. We gotta get a drum roll. Can we get a drum roll, please? The Ducks signed Ryan Strome from the New York Islanders to a 5-year deal. So, Ryan Strome had 21 goals, which was actually his highest he's ever had in a season. And he was on the Islanders team, which obviously they went deep into the playoffs this past season, falling to the eventual Eastern Conference champion, the Tampa Bay Lightning. But overall, it's a good signing. I think it's a very, very good signing. So I think Ryan Strome is going to provide a lot of offense, and I think this is just what the Ducks need. So, and they obviously have a lot of good young talent. It's just that they have to build around Zegras. If they build around Christian Zegras, then they are in good shape. That's kind of their big off-season question. How do they build around Zegras? Simple, by applying more talent and not making him the number one guy. Mike says me pronouncing Ivan Miroshnichenko was pretty good. I appreciate that, Mike. I'm glad I made you proud. Remember, his name is Ivan Miroshnichenko. Ivan Miroshnichenko. Yeah, all you just need is to a couple practice runs, and then it eventually rolls off the tongue. But knowing my luck, it does not. I'm probably mispronouncing it still. Ahem. Anyway, so let us jump on into the MLB. That's enough NHL discussion talk. So we are now nearing the All-Star break, and it's time for me to give out grades. We'll start off with the Dodgers. So I should also make note that the Dodgers and Angels are playing each other in the Freeway Series, and the Dodgers are up 2-0 against the Angels in Anaheim Stadium. So that's kind of a quick little score update right there. As for the Dodgers, their most recent week consisted of them taking 2 out of 3 against the Cardinals. Cardinals are actually a fairly good team, and they actually are one of the tougher matchups for the Dodgers, as on Tuesday they kind of showed it when they defeated the Dodgers 7-6. The Dodgers fell behind way too much to try to mount a comeback. They nearly made the comeback. They were down 6-5. The Cardinals got that insurance run. The Dodgers came so close to at least tying it, but unfortunately that wasn't the case, as the Dodgers fell 7-6. On Wednesday, the Dodgers kind of returned the favor to the Cardinals as they won 7-6. Believe it or not, the Dodgers were actually down 6-0 after 6 innings, and it looked as if it was game over. Fortunately for the Dodgers, they are resilient as heck, and they were able to score 7 runs in the span of 3 innings. 2 in the 7th, 3 in the 8th, and 2 in the 9th. So it was very impressive for the Dodgers to make that comeback. It really shut quite a number of Dodgers fans up, saying that it was over, but then they realized, never mind. And then the Dodgers won yesterday against the Cardinals 4-0. Last weekend, the Dodgers swept the Chicago Cubs in the 4-game series, which is no surprise. Last Thursday, they beat the Cubs 5-3. And then last Friday, the Dodgers beat the Cubs 4-3 in 10 innings. Then last Saturday, the Dodgers beat the Cubs 4-2. And then on Sunday, the Dodgers beat the Cubs 11-9 on Sunday. So overall, I was quite impressed by the Dodgers. Obviously it's the Cubs, but still, it's rather good. that was two swept series in a row, and they have won. What was the last time they lost a series? I want to say their last time they lost a series was when they lost 2 of 3 to the Rockies. But ever since they took 3 out of 4 against the Padres, they haven't lost a series ever since, which is quite impressive. They have the potential to close out the month of July without losing a series. But following the All-Star break, they have the Giants, which I still think that's going to be a tough matchup. But this time, the Giants and the Dodgers will be facing one another in the Chavez Ravine. I promise never to do that again, but I digress. And then the Dodgers close out the month of July with a 3-game series against the Nationals and a 4-game series against the Colorado Rockies. But as the Rockies kind of demonstrated, there are no guaranteed series. So we'll see if the Dodgers are able to pull out the series win over the Rockies, or if they could just tie. If they tie, then that's an even bigger miracle, just because it's tough to win in Colorado. And then the Nationals are not really that good. I'm sorry to Nationals fans are out there, but the Nationals just have not been the best this season. So as long as the Dodgers get through the 2-game series against the Angels, which after that series, the Dodgers will have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off until they play the Giants on Thursday on national TV. So, yeah. That's the Dodgers for you. So, looking at them right now, the Dodgers, there's nothing better to say about the Dodgers. Like, they are doing really well. They have the best record in the National League. They have the second best record overall behind the Yankees, and believe it or not, oh my God. Marcus just made the funniest joke of all, but the Dodgers have the same record as the Houston Astros. And then, obviously, they have the second best record behind the Yankees, who are treating everybody like fresh meat. And anyway, so for the Dodgers, this is an obvious grade I have to give them. I'm giving them an A+. They're having a phenomenal year, but my thing is, can they do this in the playoffs? Sometimes the Dodgers go Peyton Manning in the playoffs, or they go the Houston Rockets route when it comes to the playoffs. And I'm talking about the Houston Rockets when they had Russell Westbrook and James Harden, and their coach was Mike D'Antoni. Basically, they played really well in the regular season, and they played like garbage truck juice, as Marcus just said in the chat room. Yeah. That's what I'm referring to. Like, that's basically my definition of a playoff team not doing so, having a great regular season and then looking super bad in the playoffs. I hope that makes sense to you all. I hope that's a good comparison. If not, then feel free to give me other good comparisons. But Marcus, I'll give Marcus his props. He was the one that kind of made the Peyton Manning reference one time where he said, "This team is Peyton Manning." And I'm like, what the heck is he talking about? I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. Peyton wasn't the best when it came to the playoffs. Until he obviously won his Super Bowls. But I'm getting off topic here. Back to the Dodgers. The Dodgers get an A+ for me when it comes to their mid-season grade, and my thing is, just keep the Dodgers healthy, keep them going, and let's keep the momentum high going into the playoffs, just because you never know what can happen come postseason time. Look at the Giants. They were the number 1 seed, and they eventually fell apart at the worst time. Marcus says, Nats have been sparkling blue toilet water. Oh my God, Marcus, that's a little savage right there. And then he says straight garbage truck juice. Mike Pat says, now Marcus, there's no need to insult toilet water like that. I don't think he's insulting it, but he's not wrong. Oh my goodness. But, yeah, the Nats have not been anywhere near good. So, either way, Dodgers get an A+. Let's jump on over to the Padres now that we're still in the National League. So the Padres, despite not having one game of Fernando Tatis Jr., have been really solid. Despite still trailing the Dodgers by 9.5 games in the NL West, they're actually the best team in the NL West that's not leading a division. In other words, they're the best wild card team in the National League. Actually, they're the second best team. They're the second best wild card team in the National League. I forgot the Atlanta Braves and the New York Mets are in the same division, so I can't really use that comparison all that well. So, either way, the Padres are the second best team not to lead in a division in the NL West. So, overall, despite not having Fernando Tatis Jr., I give the Padres lots of credit. Like, they continue to impress. Before I continue on that, they're currently playing the Arizona Diamondbacks. They're down 1-0, but it's only the top of the sixth inning. This past week, they lost 3 out of 4 to the Rockies. They won on Monday 6-5, but then they lost on Tuesday 5-3. Then on Wednesday, they lost 10-6, and then yesterday, being Thursday, they lost 8-5, which was a gigantic bummer. Last weekend, the Padres split their series against the Giants. Last Thursday, the Padres won 2-1 in 10 innings over the Giants, which I didn't get to see that matchup, but it was an impressive win nonetheless. And then last Friday, the Padres beat the Giants 6-3. Then the Giants got the better of the Padres, winning 3-1. And then Sunday, the Giants steamrolled the Padres 12-0. Avoiding the series loss and salvaging a split. Now back to the Padres. So, despite all their hardships, despite not having Fernando Tatis Jr., I give a lot of credit to the Padres. They are putting themselves in a great position. Granted, it's not the greatest position, but they're still in the playoff hunt. Their playoff chances look a whole lot better than some other teams in the National League. And they have 50 wins, which is quite nice. And once again, they're only one of 2 teams that's not leading a division in the National League to have 50 wins. The other team being the Atlanta Braves, which are 2.5 games back of the Mets. But for the Padres, I give them lots of credit, especially since they had such a collapsing year last year, where they wound up losing a whole lot of games, and they eventually just lost their way out of the wild card spot. As Mike Pat asks, how am I enjoying Manny Machado? Manny Machado has definitely been a bright spot for the Padres. He has definitely been the catalyst for the San Diego Padres, and it's a beautiful thing if you ask me. He is hitting .307, and I really think he's really taken over, and I think he's finally adjusted to being in San Diego. I don't think he was suited for being with the Dodgers, and then obviously the Orioles. Eventually, he kind of left the Orioles, but I think he's really adjusted well with the Padres, especially since the Padres, without Fernando Tatis Jr., who are they going to turn to when it comes to big-time stats and big-time hits? Obviously, they have to turn to Manny Machado, just because if they don't, then who are they going to get home runs from? That's my biggest question. Like, who else are they going to get, like, big-time hits to, like, help them get wins and whatnot? Because Machado is leading the Padres in every category. He leads them in batting average with .307. He leads them in home runs with 15. He leads them in RBIs with 51. On-base percentage, .381, which is 38%, which is pretty good. And then he's got 93 hits on the year. So the fact that he's doing all that, he's leading the Padres in every category when it comes to hits, is very special. I really think it's very special on what he's doing. And then you also have Jake Cronenworth, as well as Jurickson Profar, who I hope he's recovering from that concussion. Here's hoping he has a speedy recovery and whatnot. But I really got to give credit to Manny Machado on how he's been able to take over. Marcus says this is the year of the Yankees, and Mike Pat doesn't agree with that. And he says, how can you hate the Pinstripes? He says they're America's team. Oh, you two AL East boys and your little rivalry. Love it. But back to the Padres. I'm going to give the Padres an A, just because obviously they're not on the level of the Dodgers, but the fact that they're having such a great year, despite not having Fernando Tatis Jr., who still has yet to make his debut, speaks to high volumes of how adamant they're trying to put last year in their rearview mirror, and how they want to continue to basically move forward. So now we got to get to the black sheep of our Southern California MLB teams, and that is the Angels, who are basically the fresh meat of all these really good teams. As Mike actually alluded to in the chat room, he says, no hard feelings about the Orioles sweeping the Angels. He is actually referring to last weekend when the Orioles swept the Angels in Baltimore, as the Orioles beat the Angels last Thursday 4-1, and then they beat the Angels 5-4 on Friday, then 1-0 on Saturday, and then 9-5 on Sunday. However, I will say this about the Orioles. The Orioles are actually playing some of their best baseball, as the Orioles are actually above 500. Yes, the entire American League is bowl game eligible. I just got to throw that joke out there. But it is rather impressive that the Orioles have won 10 in a row, and despite their run differential of -6, it really is amazing to see them actually above 500. More times than not, they're the punching bag of the AL East, and they're kind of the laughingstock of the American League in general. But the fact that they've really turned it around speaks to high volumes of how they've come far. Mike says, does it count as much of a rivalry if one side has been curb stomping the other for most of the time? I think Mike is referring to the Dodgers and Padres, I want to say. But if that's the case, then no, it doesn't. I said this last week, the Dodgers and the Padres are not a rivalry. The Dodgers and the Giants are a rivalry. Anyway, but back to the Angels. I'm getting off topic here. Earlier in the week, the Angels also lost 2 out of 3 against the Astros, as they lost 6-5 on Tuesday, and then they beat the Astros 7-1 on Wednesday, and then they lost 3-2 in 10 innings on Thursday. Currently, like I said, they are down 2-0. They actually have 2 men on base, and there's 2 outs in the bottom of the second inning. And Mike Pat was referring to Yankees-Orioles. I didn't even know that was a rivalry, so I guess I said, you AL East rivals, you. But yeah, Yankees-Orioles isn't a rivalry. So for the Angels, currently right now, they are 39-51. If it weren't for the Oakland A's, they'd be at the basement of the AL West. And looking at the wild card, they are they're like the 4th worst team when it comes to the wild card. It's really disappointing, and I really can't say anything better about the Angels. They're the 4th worst team in the American League, and it's not getting better anytime soon. So, yeah. I hate to give the Angels this record just because they lost their head coach. They had that 14-game losing streak, but I have to give the Angels an F. Oh my goodness. And yeah, I'm sorry, but it is the truth. The Angels get an F for me just because they had that good start to the season. They were like 26-16, and then they lost those 14 straight games. And then another thing I just realized is that ever since they got into that brawl with the Seattle Mariners, the Mariners are, I want to say they're like 14-2, and then the Angels are like 4-11 ever since. That's just what I'm presuming. bottom line is the Angels have really not benefited from that brawl. And no, Mike Pat, you are not going to take Mike Trout off the Angels' hands. Unless you can give the Angels a mega haul. But no, you're not taking Mike Trout off our hands. Sorry. But he also says they've got plenty of prospects, so we'll see. But I don't think the Angels are going to deal Mike Trout that soon. So that is going to do it for some MLB baseball action. I'm actually going to talk a little bit of high school football. So last week I covered the Battle at the Beach high school football tournament. It's a passing league tournament, which means no linemen, just 7-on-7, no offensive line and whatnot, just corners and all that sort of jazz. Corners, safeties, linebackers, you name it. So I got to cover that tournament last week as I actually got to see Mission Viejo do really well. As some of you might know, I am a beat writer for South Coast Football Insider, which covers the South Coast League, which is one of the premier leagues in Southern California, home of Mission Viejo, one of the more dominant teams in California, in terms of public schools, of course. And you have San Clemente, who has also given Mission Viejo a run for their money. And then this year, Capo Valley joins the league after having so much success in the Seaview League, which is basically baby brother of the South Coast League. And then there's also Tesoro, which is basically, they've kind of been grandfathered in the South Coast League just because they've had success more often than not. So Mission Viejo was very impressive. They went a perfect 7-0. And in the quarterfinals, they beat Los Alamitos, another school I cover for another organization. And then also, they beat Mater Dei, the perennial juggernaut, aka the Football Factory. They actually beat them on the last play of the game. It really sucks because I did not have, my phone was dying. I couldn't charge it fast enough. And it really sucks just because I really wanted to get that last play on film. I basically was filming most of the day with my phone, and I only had one charger bank, and unfortunately it just couldn't, it couldn't get the job done. That's all I have to say. So, and then also the Mission Viejo beat St. John Bosco in the final, which they actually blanked them 21-0. Now, it is passing league, I understand, and some of these teams were not at full strength, but it is very impressive that Mission Viejo was able to do that. I've never seen Mission Viejo football before last weekend, and now I'm really impressed by it. I'm kind of excited to see what they're able to do this season. My only thing is that will I be able to cover them along with Sunset Rewind? I'm hoping that is the case, but if I have conflicting dates, I just may have to favor Sunset Rewind, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm not going to abandon it, though. I'm not abandoning either. I'm on board with both things. I also got to see a little Capo Valley in the Battle at the Beach. Unfortunately, they kind of got the short end of the stick. They got 5th in their pool, and they basically don't qualify. Basically, it was 4 or 5 team pools, and then the top two teams make it into the knockout round or the gold bracket quarterfinals, and then the 3rd and 4th place teams make it to the silver bracket quarterfinals, and then they battle it out to the final. And then the 5th place teams basically just go home early, which is sad, but that's why it's a premier tournament. You're going to get these big-time matchups. It also is a great precursor to what these teams are basically going to have in store for the other teams going into the season. So that is going to do it for a little high school football action. Before we sign off, we have to give out the Dum Dum of the Week award. The Dum Dum of the Week award is basically an award I give out to someone or an organization or anything of that sort that does something dumb or that says something dumb. No one is safe from the Dum Dum of the Week award. Not even your boy is safe from the Dum Dum of the Week award. And this was a little difficult for me to give out a Dum Dum of the Week award. I almost want to forego doing Dum Dum of the Week, but then I realized, wait, Marcus is going to get mad at me. And then I just realized the perfect Dum Dum of the Week award is obviously me. So, for those of you that listen all the way to the end of my show, whether it's Set Point or SoCal Supreme Sports Show, I basically have been saying all summer to wear your sunscreen because it is sunburn season. And last Saturday, I obviously went to the Battle of the Beach tournament. I decided it was a good idea to wear a jacket, which at the time it was kind of overcast. It wasn't hot, but it wasn't like cold either. Like early on, it was moderate. And then it started to warm up sooner rather than later, but I decided to not take off my jacket just because I'm like that. I'm that type of person. However, as the day went on, the sun finally broke through Mr. Overcast and eventually decided to shine on everybody. And me, being the smart person that I am, forgot to apply sunscreen on the back of my neck and on my face. As a matter of fact, I didn't have sunscreen at all. Yeah. My message, I am the biggest hypocrite out there. I say, please apply your sunscreen. Person says, please apply your sunscreen. It is sunburn season. Doesn't apply sunscreen when you're in like mid-70 degree weather. Out in the open. So, it was not fun being sunburned. Let me just tell you that. It was not fun being sunburnt. It felt, when it came to the back of my neck, it felt like there was a heater right behind me. And I'm like, oh my god, this hurts. And what was worse is that the day after, I had to work, and I had to basically do work outside, which was me pushing shopping carts back in. And it was pretty hot. It wasn't scorching hot, but it wasn't cold either. So, yeah, it was not fun, and I was eventually peeling. But luckily, my sunburn is all better. I think I'm fully peeled and fully healed. So, but for me, I am a complete hypocrite for basically saying, wear your sunscreen because it's sunburn season, and then I forget to apply my sunscreen when I'm covering a high school football in 77 degree weather. Again, it wasn't scorching hot, but it was hot enough to the point where I basically got sunburn on the back of my neck, and I also got sunburn on my face. And on Sunday, the day after that tournament, I bought sunscreen, and I also bought aloe vera for me. So, that still doesn't make up for me being a complete dummy, for basically not being prepared. And as of my result of being a hypocrite and not applying sunscreen when it is mid-70s, I am this week's Dum Dum of the Week Award number 1.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Yep, I deserve the Dum Dum of the Week Award. I can't believe I forgot to apply sunscreen. Don't worry, it's in my backpack now, and I'm not going to forget it this time. I'm not going to forget to apply it, even if it means I have to apply it underneath my jacket, but I digress. So, moral of the story, kids, if you're going to put out a message, you better stick to it as well as everyone else. Otherwise, you will be Dum Dum of the Week. But I deserve Dum Dum of the Week. I'm not just trying to be Dum Dum of the Week just because I couldn't think of another Dum Dum of the Week, which I actually did. So that's the first Dum Dum of the Week. The second Dum Dum of the Week actually goes out to an organization. So, fake news all over Twitter is never to be believed. Lots of people can be duped, smeckle-dwarfed, hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, all that sort of thing. And this actually occurred to a big-time organization. This was actually ESPN that got duped by an organization called, I hate to say this, Ballsack Sports. And this was actually an article on Deadspin, and they basically quoted this screenshotted tweet but it was actually a fake tweet based on, and this was basically Ja Morant. They actually duped ESPN saying where they thought Ja Morant said Ja Morant on Michael Jordan. If you put Michael Jordan in today's game, he's just another superstar. You have me, Stephen Curry, Luka Doncic, Damian Lillard, Trae Young, and then guys like LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kawhi Leonard. It's just not about one superstar and a bunch of average guys. And I guess Bleacher Report kind of fell for this too, but ESPN was the one that displayed this tweet on base. I think it was Get Up. Either way, ESPN. This isn't the first time ESPN has gotten duped. They actually have been duped more often than not. As I can't believe they didn't double check their sources. As ESPN actually credited Bleacher Report in the segment, which basically there was no sources, no one knew if Ja Morant said it, and yeah, it was absolutely disappointing. I still can't believe they have been duped more often than not. It seems like, I think I remember one time they all thought that Skip Bayless said that Kevin Durant was fat and lazy or something along those lines. And it's just so disappointing. It's why would you've never been one to check your sources. And also, the blue check mark should be the big hint right there. If there is no blue check mark, then it's fake. But for ESPN, it's basically, as Marcus puts in the chat room, it's all about being first. And Marcus says they want to be first, and that leads to mistakes. And that's 100% true. However, it still should be of noting that you should check to see if everything is true and if there is that blue check mark or anything of that sort. Otherwise, you will get hoodwinked, smeckle-dwarfed, all those things. So, for me, it's just disappointing that ESPN actually thought that. And who says Stephen Curry? Stephen Curry should have been the biggest red flag right there. Just because no one says Stephen Curry anymore. It's Steph Curry. Even though that is his full name, Stephen Curry. And who actually wants to pronounce Giannis's last name? I can barely pronounce Giannis's last name. Antetokounmpo. Either way, no one pronounces Giannis's name and whatnot. And most people just want to cut corners and just say their first names, like Giannis, LeBron, Kawhi, KD. I understand Trae Young, Damian Lillard, Luka Doncic, but it still should have been a red flag when it came to Stephen Curry and Giannis Antetokounmpo. No one is going to want to fully pronounce those names. But for me, ESPN getting duped yet again, because this isn't the first time that ESPN has been duped. They are this week's Dum Dum of the Week Award number 2 for thinking that Ja Morant would say that he would beat MJ one-on-one.
That's so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And that, my friends, is all she wrote. What was looking like I wasn't going to have an eventful Dum Dum of the Week turned out to being quite the eventful Dum Dum of the Week. Or in this case, Dum Dums of the Week. But that is going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Without any further delay, it is high time we hightail it. We get on out of here. I have me some dinner because I got to get up early in the morning for another Passing League tournament. You dig? Thank you everyone for tuning in to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on Spreaker, in the group chat, in the chat room, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. I really do appreciate everyone in the group chat. Shout out to Marcus Los Great, John Felipe, Mike Pat, Larry B, the man, the myth, the legend. Everyone for tuning in. And yeah, and Gina G. Can't forget about Gina G. She tuned in as well. And thank you to everyone that tuned in as well. Thank you for all of the support. Soon, very soon, SoCal Supreme Sports Show is going to be reaching its 100th episode, and I cannot wait. It's going to be electric. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. You all have a great weekend. This time for real, please, please, please apply your sunscreen. I will definitely do that this weekend. I promise you, I'm not going to forget. I will apply sunscreen tomorrow. I promise you. If you are already sunburned, please apply your aloe vera. It'll be less painful. I will see you Monday for Set Point. Until then, have a great weekend. Enjoy the SoCal sports. And remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace!